Okay, I guess we're live then. Yeah, is that what that means, Robman? So, yeah, welcome everyone to the ZKAV Club workshop on Omeka S. It's a really exciting one. The timing is perfect for ZKAV Club and the project that we're working on with open source media, the archive that we're building using the recording station. So, this workshop is facilitated by my friend C-Host, who's going to be guiding us through and explaining what Omeka S is during this workshop. And it's a really cool piece of open source software, so I'm excited to learn about it. And then we'll do a follow-up workshop in a few weeks and get really into the hands-on stuff. So, C-Host, how you doing? Thanks for joining us.
I'm good. Thank you for inviting me, Ryan. Looking forward to talking about Omeka S with you.
Cool. Cool. So you want to get right into it?
Should I kick it off?
Yeah, let's go.
All right. One moment. Okay. Is the slide viewable well at that size?
Looks good to me. How do we look on YouTube? Cool.
Make it a little bigger.
All right. Yeah.
Keep Morton Feldman in the side there. Okay, so thank you again for inviting me to come and talk about Omeka S with the ZKAV Club. So today is an introduction to Omeka S on community archiving with open source digital archive software. I am C-Host, and this workshop is going to cover Omeka S, open source self-hostable software for managing and displaying digital archives. And today we're going to spend some time thinking about how we can use it to maintain and contribute to our own archives. As Ryan alluded to, it's a workshop 1 of 2. We'll be doing some work in this workshop setting up and scheming how an instance of Omeka S might best suit the needs of the ZKAV Club. This one's going to be more of a walkthrough and a kind of demonstration of some of the capabilities. So we're going to cover digital archiving at a high level, the what, the why, and the practices. We're going to talk a little bit about metadata, and if you haven't already seen the video that Ryan and Tommy did on using the Internet Archive API, where they talk about metadata a lot, you will definitely want to check that out as a complement to watching this. We'll talk a little bit about setting up Omeka S, do some demos, talk about some custom themes and some custom modules that have been developed for it. We'll do some collaborative sketching around metadata structures and instance features, and then there will be a bunch of links for you to be able to look at this. Also in the description or in the live chat or somewhere in the internet, there should be a link to the presentation slides, so you can follow along with me or follow along afterwards and click all the links. And you're going to leave this live stream, and for those watching later, the stream, with a basic understanding of Omeka S, a wider view of digital archiving, and your own setup guide for running an instance that looks like the one that's going to be demonstrated today. So maybe just to start with, a little bit about myself. I'm C-Host, currently working in digital archives with a background in art and also a researcher. Did a degree in music composition, spent some time doing some work around digital governance. I've been more involved with community archives recently, and have been participant at the DWeb camp, where I was also working with Ryan on some archiving projects. So in terms of the musical background, one thing that I was looking at in that realm, and I will not go into great detail about it here, but was to say that there was this idea that I was kind of converging around of what if instead of archives just being this kind of documentary residue, we could use these archival residues as a type of performance, as a type of score, as a way of reactivating the archive. In terms of the digital governance background and community archives, some of my work in digital governance kind of got me hip, maybe you could say, to this idea of community self-governance online. And some of the work that I had done at DWeb Camp, and also previously at a not-for-profit organization called MetaGov, got me more interested in this kind of idea of governance and then how it could kind of be integrated into archiving, which is often a very kind of highly institutionalized, fairly inaccessible field for a whole variety of reasons, which we'll touch on a little bit during this presentation. A kind of side interest to all of this that I had at some point was this idea of, what do we do? It's sort of similar to the kind of interest that I had with the music composition practice. What do we do with all of this digital residue or refuse that we leave? And how do we think about our relationship to death, memorialization, etc., bereavement in this kind of digital or post-digital context? And part of that work led me to think about ways in which you could design simulatory systems that people could walk through with some digital data of perhaps someone that's no longer in their life, and kind of walk through the process of seeing that digital item degrade over time. So instead of trying to hold on to digital archival information forever, kind of close the bereavement process, which is very difficult to close in a digital context. I have also recently been living in the country, Georgia, and here I've been working on a digital archive project about Georgia's ecological landscape. As a part of that, I started to prototype a kind of front end for this archive, and I can demonstrate that very briefly here. It's a website that lets you search, basically, so the way that this works is we're using the Internet Archive to upload and store all of the archival items that we want to be public. And then this website is pulling from the collection that we've created on the Internet Archive and displaying it. So you can open it up. You will eventually get an embed of the Internet Archive showing you the item. You can view it on the Internet Archive. You can also see that the resource is taking longer to expect them to load from the Internet Archive. This is a very common issue with the Internet Archive, and one reason that Omeka S and the way that it organizes the kind of flow that you go through of information is a little more suited. It also lets you look at materials in a kind of more organized, collected way, so that you can sort of tell stories around the material, order the items in a certain way that you want, create a kind of timeline, leave research annotation notes, also filter by various formats or themes. And at some point, we had given a presentation about this project, and there was already an interest in kind of creating a front end to the Internet Archive through this website, so that people could, instead of having to go to the Internet Archive and upload their items and then send us a link, and then have all these kind of touch points that would make the process less accessible, it could all happen directly through this front end. And again, I highly encourage people to go and watch the video with Tommy on the Internet Archive. The Internet Archive has a very powerful API which would allow this. It also has a very powerful API that allows you to pull the metadata, the information about information, and edit it and make submission, like revisions, and push those back to the Internet Archive. And so I found myself trying to create all of these kind of collaborative management, governance structures on a bespoke website, and running into some limitations with that. For a variety of reasons. The Internet Archive API is very robust and powerful and very well documented, but from my cursory review, there aren't many kind of working examples of how this type of thing might be done with the Internet Archive. The other reason is archives are very complicated, particular data structures, like bundles of data. And there's a lot of different contingencies, edge cases, etc., that you would need to consider. There's also the question of permissions, setting up a good review system, etc. And so during this period when I was trying to think through how to develop this for the project that I was working on, I came across Omeka S, which is much more suitable, at least to the purposes that I had, because it has a very robust module system with a lot of these types of features already built in and very easily integrated into Omeka S. So before we kind of turn over to Omeka S, I want to talk about, what is digital archiving? And here again, I'm not going to go into like a kind of deep philosophical kind of theoretical kind of contemplation about archiving, but just to kind of basically state it that it's about selecting, describing, preserving, and providing access to digital materials. You often archive for memory, accountability, community continuity, and cultural survival. And there are also a variety of practices that go along with digital archiving, such as collection, metadata management, storage, display, governance, and care. And to kind of really put a finer point on this question of why, I wanted to point to this really nice quote from UbuWeb, which as well is a fantastic archive that I also recommend that you check out. It includes a whole variety of kind of experimental, modern, or work that was released and didn't get a lot of critical attention. And, I'm just going to read this because I think it really captures why digital archiving, particularly now, maybe matters in a way that it might not have previously. So, in February 1st of 2025, they wrote, a year ago we decided to shutter UbuWeb. Not really shutter it per se, but instead to consider it complete, which I think is a great idea, actually. After nearly 30 years, it felt right. But now, with the political changes in America and elsewhere in the world, we have decided to restart our archiving and regrow Ubu. In a moment when our collective memory is being systematically eradicated, archiving reemerges as a strong form of resistance, a way of preserving crucial, subversive, and marginalized forms of expression. We encourage you to do the same. All rivers lead to the same ocean. Find your form of resistance, no matter how small, and go hard. It's now or never. Together we can prevent the annihilation of the memory of the world. Now, on one hand, it's kind of grandiose, but I do think that it's particularly suitable for a group like this who is interested in building power and building. I don't want to use the word sovereignty, but maybe independence of some sort in the digital environment, to think of archives as having this kind of potential, this kind of power. On a more kind of dry level, there's a kind of general digital archiving stack. And again, there are many, many services, many of which are open source, often because this is the byproduct of library work. But I'm not going to go into great detail about all of them. But basically, you have kind of three levels. You have the storage level, which is where your files live. And the example, the demo that I'm going to give today, that's essentially the Internet Archive. There are trade-offs that come with that, of course. Then there's metadata management, which is how the items are described and organized. And if you were doing a kind of institutional archive, you would also kind of have your accessions records or your release dates or a whole complex web of metadata and structures that need to be kind of carefully managed. For a kind of cultural archive, and where everything is already open by default, you don't really have those same considerations, and Omeka S kind of is suitable for that, even though it's not a full digital archive management system. And then you have display, which is how people browse, search, and come to the archive. And that is actually what Omeka S was primarily designed for. So if you look at this, basically what we're going to be talking about today is the storage and display level and metadata management in a kind of looser sense, where storage is the Internet Archive and Omeka S is the metadata management and the display level of the stack. So in terms of the Internet Archive, as I mentioned, it is an amazing resource. It is also a very old, wizened resource, you might say, at this point. It's lived through a lot of different periods of the internet. And so you can see when you visit it that it does feel like stepping back a little bit, maybe a decade and a half or two ago, in terms of the UI, the UX, the interface, etc. It's also not like, if we're thinking about videos, which I know will be a kind of critical component for this particular group of people, it doesn't have the most snappy, zippy kind of playback on there. It's meant more as a kind of place that you can go and kind of reliably find that information. It's not a major streaming platform. It has a very powerful API, which we'll get into maybe a little bit more. It's free, and it also contributes to a public commons. It's, yes, often excellent for storage, but not always ideal alone for curation and display. Another element, as well as that, as I mentioned before, like there aren't many examples, again, that I can find where you see the Internet Archive robustly integrated into a front-end project. So I think I can't say exactly why that is, but it is a kind of limitation. Also, if you're doing manual upload and not doing it through the terminal or through the API, the kind of way that you access the metadata, you have a very kind of, basically it's kind of like a funnel. So at the top you have your very basic metadata that you enter in when you do it through the website. And then if you want to kind of specify more granularly the metadata, you either need to know the property value, the property key that you're going to assign the metadata value to, and you need to be able to just put that in without any help, or you need to upload it and then go and find the metadata editor. So it's not really particularly easy to find, and even when you do find it, it doesn't really offer you a lot of information about what it is that you're looking at. So in terms of the display side and the metadata management with Omeka S, there have been two iterations of Omeka S, or Omeka, I should say. There's Omeka Classic and Omeka S. Omeka Classic was a kind of single-site project. It's much older. Most people have moved over to Omeka S. Omeka S has a kind of linked data structure, which means that you can have multiple sites and have shared resources that are linked across those sites. And it also has a very robust module system, which is basically code that you plug in and extends the capability of Omeka S. Here's a chart. I'm going to skip it. You can pause and look at it if you want more information. There is also a hosted option that Omeka offers on omeka.net. It ranges from free to $1,000 a year. The kind of cheapest options are $35 or $75 a year. And the kind of trade-off there is that you get a set collection of modules or a kind of restriction on the number of modules that you can install. You also, it's not clear to me, but my sense is that you're not able to kind of develop custom modules and integrate those in. And with the self-hosting option, you have full control over how you want it to be set up, how you want it to look to some extent, and it's your infrastructure. So I prepared a demo of I basically prepared a kind of wrapper that if you go there, it'll like walk you through the whole process of setting up Omeka S locally using Docker. I'm not going to go into that today, but the documentation should be reproducible. Should. So some of the modules that we use here are the ones listed on this slide. I'm not going to like read them, but I think you'll get to see them in action when we do the demo. But the critical component here is that as a part of this, I've developed 3 additional modules that integrate or create a kind of API connection between Omeka S and the Internet Archive. And these are modules that didn't already exist. Again, sadly, there was no already existing Internet Archive module for interfacing with Omeka S. Again, it's striking that you have this this major digital archive project, and you have this kind of more library institutional software, and these two things don't really touch each other. And I think part of this project is tempting, although it turns out that Omeka S actually has a fair number of knobs and fiddles that you have to work with to really get it to work how you want. But it is attempting to kind of make digital archiving just a little more accessible by letting people upload to somewhere that is easy to work with to some extent, and then get the kind of robustness of display that Omeka S offers. There is also a kind of enhancement module that was made to an already existing contribute module that kind of streamlines the contribution process. So again, here's the instructions for deploying your own instance. You can visit the repo, which should be in the description, I believe. And at this point, we'll do a quick high-level tour of the public site. We'll walk through browsing items, looking at item pages, guest login, etc. So we have, I'm going to pull this over here. So this page here is the public welcome page to the Omeka S instance. It is not an exactly flashy website. I mean, it's an archive website. It is using a custom theme of a fork of a theme called Freedom, which you can edit the CSS in. But basically, what you can do here is you can browse the collection. Right now, there's only one item in here, and I will I will demonstrate adding more items to this collection. We will also have to see if my internet wants to work with me properly.
And we lost him. So the place where a C host is presenting from, he's got like spotty Wi-Fi, not so consistent internet reliability. We tested for this earlier, and he'll be back soon. I'm sure he's just and there we go. Hey, C host,
Okay.
we lost you for a second, and now we're back. So
Okay, great.
please continue.
So yeah, I think the last thing I was showing was the welcome page, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. So basically, yeah, this is the welcome page. My internet is slow at the moment. If you go to the browse page, and currently there's only one item here because I've only uploaded one. But later
We lost him again. So hopefully this. It seems like maybe interacting with Omeka S is and with the Internet Archive through it is causing his internet to lag, or it's just environmental thing. We of course know how this goes with ZKAV Club. That people have various internet connections. Okay, we're back.
Okay. If it happens again, I will try to switch to a different network. Um,
Cool.
so, okay, so as you can see here, this is a resource. This is one of the items on the archive. This is pulled directly from the Internet Archive, and it pulls the title, type of data that it is, the creator, description. You'll see that there's some me doing some edits earlier. um, the language, this is the exact identifier from the Internet Archive. And it also includes the thumbnail and the Internet Archive viewer. So if you go over here, you'll get the same Internet Archive embed that we saw earlier on the other website. Uh, there we go. So,
Oh yeah, yeah. It's when you're trying to load these videos, I think is where your internet's getting kind of choppy. Cool, cool. Hmm.
so yes, there's Ryan and Wendy. Um, um, and there's also the ability to browse items on a map, but we will look at that later. So maybe what is worth showing you at this point is the back end. So this item that we just looked at lives here in items. Uh, and if my internet will be this slow the whole time to a different network. Um, you can see here that there are two items currently. There is a private item, this ZKAV logo, which is something that was uploaded at a previous point. And then here is the item that we were just looking at on the Internet Archive. We can edit this item, and I will switch network.
I'm actually curious. If you're switching networks, you won't be able to answer me. But since you're running on localhost, what is it that is using the internet? Like when you load a page, it clearly loads the videos from Internet Archive. But when you're poking around in the back end, is it? There, he's gone now. So yeah, that was what I'm curious about. This is running locally on Chost's machine, so the media is coming from Internet Archive, including thumbnails and things. But when he's changing the admin panels on the back end, that should all just be running locally. So it's clearly causing some internet problems with the connection, but we'll see if switching networks helps. And in the meantime, I'm gonna kind of like just ramble about the stuff that we've been talking about. There's a lot of Internet Archive talk, a lot of metadata talk. If you haven't seen it, there we did a workshop last October, September, maybe it was in August, with Tommy from DWeb, and we covered Internet Archive specifically, how to use the command line tool, and how to fill in metadata. So if you haven't checked it out, definitely go back to that, and the link is in the YouTube chat. And we're back.
Great. Um,
Oh, wait, hold on. Now you sound like a robot.
great.
I think this
Yeah.
network's worse. Maybe refresh the browser?
Mm,
You could try
sure.
refreshing. Like just
Uh,
your
is is this better?
it's a little bit, but there's still
No.
some robotics going on. Yeah. Oh wait, there. No.
Um, yeah. No.
Yeah, no, try refreshing your Miro Talk window. Yeah. So we might as well talk about Miro Talk then, because what we're using, where we're actually meeting, is the software called Miro Talk. It's p2p.mirotalk.com. This isn't an advertisement, although it definitely sounds like one. Miro Talk is some free open source software that we discovered last year. We did a workshop on privacy protecting calling platforms, including Jitsi and MiroTalk. This is hosted on the self-hosted or the hosted instance of MiroTalk at that p2p.mirotalk URL. Later this year, we're going to be doing a MiroTalk workshop, and we're going to be installing our own MiroTalk, which comes with a whole bunch of extra options, and it's all peer-to-peer with WebRTC. So, yeah, we've refreshed, and
Yeah. I
yeah.
would try just sharing one specific window and see
You're
if
not
that makes a
robotic now.
difference. Okay, that's great.
Yeah, that's
Um, okay, so I think the last thing I heard was that you were asking me how this is running, like if it's local.
Yeah, so it's on localhost, but when you are navigating the admin panel, it is like lagging, and you said that your internet connection might be the issue. The only internet connection I could see it like using is for Internet Archive media for like the thumbnail and the video, but like what's happening there, do you think?
Well, okay, so there's maybe two things. It's possible that my computer is just kind of overall CPU breaking. Um, but the other thing is, I mean, this is running through a Docker container. So there is an Apache setup there, so there is some kind of web connection that's happening. Um, but I don't know exactly
Okay.
why it's having such a slow experience.
Yeah. Interesting to know,
So
but it
this
seems
is
to be working now,
the
so we're good.
editor for, yes, let's hope that it does continue to work. So this is the editor for the item. Um, we can also map where specifically this happened in the world, which might be useful for the ZKAV Club, given the fact that there are these stations that are happening at various parts of the world. So I think we would do Seabase, Berlin. I think this is it. Uh, and it'll add a pin, and we save that. And then when you go back to the item page at the bottom, there should be a map. Um, the other things that I want to show all involve a lot of moving around the interface, which is unfortunate. So what I'll do as well is show how you can add items from the Internet Archive to Omeka S once the page loads. And as you can
Oh, we lost him again. Definite internet connection difficulties. So he'll be back we'll figure it out. Maybe he'll switch back to the other network. It seems to be a little better. But yeah, it's all good. We have reconnection. And you're back. You dropped out again.
Uh, Amazing. I might turn off my video briefly if that is
That will probably help,
not
yeah.
so disturbing.
Yeah, that'll help. Hopefully.
Okay.
Cool.
Um, okay. So if we go here to the Internet Archive inbound module, the import tab, then we can add any number of Internet Archive links. Okay, so we're going to add all of these links from this collection here, which is the DWebCamp 2026 collection, which.
Oh, just when it's getting good too. Like, I mean, the whole workshop's been good, don't get me wrong, but right when we're getting to the juicy stuff, like this, the actual hands-on stuff, the stuff that involves Internet Archive, the DWeb 2026 collection, this was from the meetup that happened at the end of February of this year, and it was a planning meetup for DWeb Camp that is starting next Wednesday. Really excited about that. And that collection on Internet Archive will be growing with all sorts of content. It becomes overwhelming. So having something like Omeka S to browse through it all would be beneficial to DWeb as well. Currently, all of the previous DWeb content that we made, whether it was in like the migration station, that was an early version of our recording station. We also recorded at the AI tent, and there were other video teams there and photographers, and then everyone who joined also uploaded all their stuff. So it's all on Internet Archive, and we're going to have a collection like this for 2026. And this is just the beginning of it. So, yep, you're back.
Great. It's possible that this won't work in terms of the demo, because if the internet is so unstable, it's possible that this import process won't actually complete. So
This plugin that you're showing here, this import from Internet Archive, this is the one that you made, right? This module?
correct.
Yeah. Cool.
Correct.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's not a little bit of lag isn't the end of the world. We can definitely talk about this, and I can see the screen and how you pulled in this content. So you add something, and then it's importing it from Internet Archive. So this is one way that you can do it, and then you also have the outbound one, right? These are the two modules that you wrote.
So the outbound module works by there are three different options for the outbound module. For the outbound module, basically the workflows are you want to correct some metadata in Omeka S as the admin that you've already pulled in from the Internet Archive. And then once you've made those changes, you can push them to the Internet Archive. The other one is in Omeka S.
Aw, lost him again. Um, yeah, so these two modules were written by C-Host. The Omeka S has a really big community. They have a lot of, it's in version 4, I think. It's been going on for a while. They do have a lot of integrations, but nothing for Internet Archive. So since this is where we're starting our archive, this is where Omeka S comes in, and these modules specifically. I turned off my camera too, thinking that would help because WebRTC, but I don't know if it did.
No.
Yeah,
um, let me.
but this is a new screen.
I what to do? Uh, so, okay. I mean, I don't know how much you heard before, but as you can see here, um, this is the outbound module. Um, and you can actually see that some of the items that we had just uploaded or brought into Omeka S from the Internet Archive are actually here. Um, this one is new, and so is this one. And what you can do is, if you've made a change to your metadata in Omeka S, then you can select these changes, um, and then you can preview the changes that have been made. And then if you're happy with the preview, then you can push that metadata update to the Internet Archive. There's also the ability for people to fill out forms, which has all of the metadata fields that you need them to fill out, and they can upload a file. And then you can also review that and upload it directly to the Internet Archive. And then the so as you can see here, this is some of the additional information that was added to Omeka S in the metadata, and if we were to push it,
I definitely recommend anyone who's watching this to go check out the Internet Archive. It's How to Use Internet Archive Like a Hacker Librarian was the name of the workshop. I definitely encourage you to check that out because everything that C-Host is showing right now is directly connected to that. So, yeah, check that out. And now you may continue. You're back again.
okay, so here you can see a preview for one of the items where the metadata was edited. Here is the before, what's currently on the Internet Archive, and what will be on the Internet Archive after pushing. So you can push it to the Internet Archive. I won't do that because I don't want to change what's on the Internet Archive. But this gives you an easy way of managing your Internet Archive metadata. Were you able to catch that?
Yep, definitely got it. I'm seeing like that. I'm kind of curious though because you said if you push this to Internet Archive, then it's going to update the what's on Internet Archive. But like, can anyone update any artifacts that are on Internet Archive? Any items? Like, how would that work? Don't you have to have some kind of like permission
No.
to change something that I put up there?
Correct. So the way this works is that in the repository that you're serving the instance from, you have an environment document that you keep secure, and in there you're able to publish your Internet Archive S3 API keys. S3 API keys are kind of S3 like API, and it lets you, if you are the uploader and those keys are selected, then you can push to items that you have control over. So the way that this would work for the project that you're describing for ZKAV would be that you would have one collection. Just to keep it really simple, the ideal situation would be that you have one collection, which you can configure in the module configuration, and you would have the key that goes with that configuration or that collection, the owner of that collection. And then from here, you would be able to push to that. So it does require API keys, secret keys from the Internet Archive in order to push. If I push this myself, it'll actually just fail because I don't. It's using my public key, my S keys at the moment.
That makes a lot of sense.
One of the benefits of this for a kind of privacy-oriented community is that you believe it or not, as part of the public metadata that the Internet Archive has for every item on its website, it publishes the emails of the person who uploaded it, which, depending on your security model, may be less than ideal. I mean, it's also not necessarily advisable to publish highly sensitive things on the Internet Archive in general. Nevertheless, if you have a group of people who want to publish things to the Internet Archive, this provides a kind of nice way to do it. So the way it would work is I'm not really going to show it because it's kind of more or less the same as this page, but on this publish user submitted items, basically what you can do is you create a collecting form on your website, and you let people submit a file and approve it and upload it. It uploads with the email of the person who owns the secret key. So that could be something as simple as like zkav at zkav.zkav, because zkav is now a domain name, a top level domain. So this would be one way to kind of let people contribute to the archive without necessarily having to publish or have them expose any of their private email information on the public metadata.
That's a really good idea. I like that. I mean, I don't like that Internet Archive is revealing that information, but there's a very easy workaround, right? Like we just use an umbrella email address and use the API keys, and then do the management through Omeka S with all the proper permissions and roles and stuff. Workflow makes sense to me.
Yeah. I think if I tried to navigate somewhere, my internet connection will go away. So one thing I want to show is the form that you can fill out. And I want to show that we have new data on the website.
So push through it. Take a risk. Do it. Try it.
Push through it. Okay, great. So if we refresh this page, we will see new data once it decides to reload.
This was that new data that you were just importing.
And once I drop off and return.
Yeah. No, you're doing good so far.
Correct.
Cool. Oh, wow. That's a lot more.
So these are all the items that we pulled from the Internet Archive. Yep. So it's just one copy and paste your items and then click import, and you have all the metadata from the Internet Archive. Media embeds, etc., etc. So yeah, this is how it works for the embed. There is also a contribute page where people can fill out a form and submit to the to the Omeka S instance.
So does that mean like this form that
It's
you're
very
about to
simple.
show us, contribute, this will allow people to submit something to our instance and then it can like be approved and added to it? Um, is that right?
So the way it works, sort of, it does get added to the instance, and the media lives on the server,
Mhm.
and then the Internet Archive outbound module that I developed basically catches all of the items that were submitted through this form. It shows you them, it lets you review them, and if you are happy with them, you can upload them to the Internet Archive. And after they've been successfully uploaded to the Internet Archive, the media that was uploaded and the item that was uploaded to Omeka gets deleted, and it just lives on the Internet Archive.
So
And
cool.
then what you can do, eventually I would want to automate this a little more, is that you would then go get the URL that's generated on the Internet Archive, and then import it into the Omeka S instance. And what this gives you is it means that you don't have to store data on your Omeka S instance. You're just storing a thumbnail and the embeds from the Internet Archive. So that's kind of how the in and out works. So on this form, it's just a very simple form for the demo. It's the title and the upload files. But what you would ideally do is you would decide all of the kind of various metadata attributes that you want to be defined for your archive. You would make them required, and then people would submit all of those. The last thing that these custom modules can do, and this will probably be a headache from a demonstration purpose, is you can go to an item that is already on the Internet Archive. Let's take let's take Ryan. And what you can do is you can propose edits to the metadata. I mean, there's a whole login, logout system, a permissioning system. These different navigation pages are exposed or hidden based on whether or not you're logged in and authorized. So you can, different viewers of the website can get different views on the website depending on their permission level. So you go down here and you click edit this record, and what you will get is an editable version of this metadata. And the nice thing about this is that you can also define which fields are editable. If we have a movie, you don't necessarily want someone to go and change the type, but maybe they want to change the format of the title, dwebcamp, and they want to put a column there, and then they want to like uppercase this, and then I don't know, they want to style it like this. They can also add an additional value for a title, or they can add an additional creator if they know that someone was involved that wasn't previously mentioned. They can change the date. Typically, you probably don't want the date to be changed. Most often, what you'll want is the description to be editable. If there's some major correction that someone imagines they want, or if there's no information, or there's not a lot of information and you want to add in more detail to this description. You can also change the language. Generally, Actually, absolutely. You never want the identifier to be changed because that's important for matching up with the Internet Archive item. And you can also edit the subjects, which are the same thing as topics on the Internet Archive. You can edit them, delete them, you can add a value. Um, uh, and then you submit it. And what this does is it gets pulled over into this contributions page. And if it loads, what you'll be able to do is you'll be able to validate, approve, disapprove, reject, proposed metadata changes. So you click on this here, and it will open up the editing page. And basically, once the reviewer has validated this, and be available to export to the Internet Archive. So as you can see here, there is a change to the title. The title as it was is actually quite good, so we'll go ahead and reject that revision. And you can also see that there was a change in the description. That one actually looks okay, so we can accept it. And then we also have that junk subject that was added. Actually, let's go ahead and reject that. You'll also see that there are these language tags available. You can make multilingual websites with Omeka. It can be somewhat complicated for some languages because if it's not already supported by Omeka, then you have to kind of create your own translations for the interface. But one really nice feature, especially for languages that are well supported, is you can have multiple titles in different languages, and you can set a language tag for it, and then you can create multiple front-end websites that filter the metadata based off of that language. So someone can visit a site in Spanish, and they will see all the content in Spanish. One thing that you can also do here is you can also change your previous decision. So if you're like, actually, no, I think the description was better before, you can review a decision that you already made. And then when you're finished, you validate it. And then the item should be available in the Internet Archive outbound tab for publishing metadata revisions. Another nice thing with the system is you can email contributors. So we can see here, this is actually a previously validated version, but it still suffices to demonstrate how it works. You click the item that's been validated, you preview the changes, and then you'll get another diff view of the before and after. So this one has the adding more detail to this description, which we approved, and it keeps the title the same. And again, if you have upload permissions, you can push it to the Internet Archive, and everything gets organized. Another thing that it does is it automatically alphabetically orders the subject tags. So you get some standardization to the subject ordering. And as a viewer, as a contributor to the website, you have a dashboard And in this dashboard, you can see contributions that you've made, which is quite useful if you need to say to a contributor, oh, like, can you go back and look at your revisions? Like, I want you to reconsider this, or I'm not sure about this. You can go and look at it. You can see which ones are archived, which ones are active. You can choose. You can see the record of changes that the reviewer has made. Also, I haven't checked this page in a while, so it's possible that it might error.
I really like
But
the whole
basically, it
FOSS
should
angle on
show
this
a
with
diff of
collaboration.
what you submitted compared to what the contributor reviewed.
Yeah, yeah, I really like how this is
Yeah,
like
there's
making pull
a
requests and stuff. Yeah, you have an error.
small error with. Yeah. But yeah, yeah, actually, yeah, it's basically like that.
Yeah, yeah, it's like pull requests is a way that
So,
open source software with
so
contributors, and you make the pull request, and then it gets merged, and you can see the diffs. I think that's super cool. Roosevelt asked in the chat question, is it similar to WordPress? Yeah, how you upload a thumbnail, add the content and the tags. It does kind of feel that way. Is that like, is this the metadata connection, you think, C-Host? What are your thoughts on that connection to WordPress similarities?
it, I mean, it is like WordPress in the sense that it's a content management system, but it's a content management system that was built around metadata structures and archive display in a way that WordPress wasn't. I have seen WordPress websites that integrate to some extent Omeka S. Basically, they have a subdomain of their website where metadata information and pages are stored on Omeka S. And then if you need like a kind of more dynamic, richer display website, then it links back to the WordPress. WordPress tends to be more flexible in terms of the styling and display, whereas Omeka S tends to be very good at having good data structures without having to custom build it. So there is some connections between the two in the sense that they're content management systems, but they're kind of designed around different fundamentals. Yeah.
Cool. I think that's a really good explanation of the two. WordPress, of course, is super well known, so people might be able to make that connection in like how the interaction with it works, but then seeing the difference between the actual data that you're working with and the purpose of the system. I like the idea of having a subdomain for this at some point for ZKV Club. I love the whole contributors thing and how that works with like a Git repo. I think that that's super cool, and the fact that like you can contact the contributors. This is really starting to feel like a community controlled archive.
Yeah, I mean, and then there are also there's like a whole nother layer to this in the sense that there is a whole module ecosystem that exists, and in fact, you can also register your own modules. So I think on here there's probably, I don't know, at least 60, maybe 70, if not more, different modules that all do different things, all extend Omeka S in different ways. And some of those are around permissioning. I don't remember if I have permissioning set up here, but basically you can define researchers, guests, a lot of different accessibility, different capabilities within the system. So if you want just someone who's reviewing contributions, then you can do that. If you want someone who can upload items, but not necessarily create new item sets or new resources, you can also do that. So yes, there's these global administrator, supervisor, editor, reviewer, author, researcher, annotator. So you can expose a good portion of this admin dashboard in a way that is not so overwhelming with all of the various capabilities of Omeka S, and also kind of suit the particular interest of that contributor.
That's super cool. That the way the roles work like that, like it's way more granular than what WordPress does, and it's something that a community would need in order to like run its own archive. Because like what we're talking about and what we're doing with ZKAV Club is not just about building an archive for ourselves, not just building our own archive, but we actually want to help communities to like document themselves, create their own archives, and this is one of the tools that would let them do that, and it's going to help us to do it, especially as we get more people involved and we have more of these recording stations happening. This is really kind of perfect for what we were looking for.
Totally.
Yeah, we have another question in the chat. In your opinion, how do you find Omeka's learning curve? Is it very steep, or is it more accessible for anyone with minimal technical knowledge?
It depends on what you want to do with it. I would. So, I mean, okay, building the custom modules was a steep learning curve. There are a lot of moving parts. In terms of setting up an Omeka S instance, it's also a little steep. I mean, the Docker is not too difficult to get running if you are familiar with working with Docker. If you're going to completely self-host it from scratch, in the sense that you're not working with a Docker and you're setting up your own Apache and everything, it's definitely much more complicated. And then once you do get it set up, if you want to just kind of create a page and add a couple pages and add a couple items, that's actually pretty easy. You also can kind of just like kind of fudge it a little bit with the metadata. Depends on like how important that is actually to your project. But you do have to read a lot of readmes for the modules to really understand exactly how it works. So I would say, like for example, when I prepared the tutorial for this project, it 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 ended up being quite lengthy because it's a lot of setting things up in the admin interface. I think for an administrator, it there's a little bit of a there's a pretty steep learning curve. I mean, it's a long document with a lot of screenshots.
And this tutorial goes
This is definitely the
through
downside.
everything, like it's
For
how
sure.
to set it up with
I mean,
Docker, and
it
then goes
is very
into all of the
future.
more, yeah. Sorry, we have some lag, so when I spoke over you, it took a while to get to you.
Correct. Yeah. Oh, good. Yeah. I mean, this is setting up the Docker up here, and the rest of it is setting up your admin. But I should also say, I mean, a big part of the complexity is these custom modules that were made. There's no real easy way of making Omeka S in the Internet Archive work. You know, for me,
Yeah.
what I ended up pulling together. More questions, or I mean, one thing that I thought would be interesting would be to kind of so the goal is to have another session in 2 weeks, um, and kind of try to onboard some people onto a production instance, set a couple permissions, try to get people actually kind of working through the workflow. Maybe like 4 or 5 people, assign them at different roles, and kind of just think through what it's like to work with a live instance, and what the processes feel like, how we'd want to shape them, and uh, yeah, uh, what kind of features or capabilities that aren't already present that would be useful for ZKAV's context. So I had prepared a document for brainstorming some of those things, but I'm also open to just kind of thinking about it through discussion with you or anyone who has thoughts in the chat.
Awesome. So here's where we're at. Like we do have another question, but first, like I want to highlight what you just said about like we're gonna have another workshop. We're gonna have a follow up to this where we get hands on in between. In between these, I'm gonna set up an instance at least locally. I really hope to set it up on the cloud. You know, someone else's computer out there, and that we have, and that would be the actual ZKAV Club Omeka S instance where we'll be interacting with the recording station archive, but then also future collections, and maybe not even just with Internet Archive, but we're starting there. We're starting with Internet Archive, and like you said, it's not easy, but we can do it. I'm excited, and the second session is going to be in a few weeks. We can kind of wrap this up, but there is one more question. And that is Omeka definitely a self-hosted tool, or is there some online or cloud way to get it running? So you mentioned the hosted instance.
So yes, so there it is definitely a self-hosted tool, but it can there Omeka.net also offers many self-host like hosted options. If you prefer, which is extremely understandable, then you can visit this page and you can try it for free. There are different plans. They have different storage options. They have different site options and different plugin and theme options. The thing that I haven't quite worked out is whether or not it. And so what you see here is you see all the plugins, and then you also see the themes that they offer. But there doesn't appear to me that there's any way of adding on the module page that we were looking at here that you particularly want. It doesn't look like it's possible to add that. So that's kind of the constraint with going with this option. But it could be, I mean, in terms of pricing, it's relatively reasonable.
Yeah, definitely reasonable pricing. I see the connection between WordPress here as well, like the similarities between WordPress, because like WordPress, you can host your own, you can install it on your own server, and then you get you can do whatever you want with it. You can hack directly on the core, although I would not recommend it, and no one should. But you can also write your own plugins, create your own themes, and all that sort of stuff. The modules in Omeka are like plugins in WordPress. And just like what is it, Automatic, the creators of WordPress, they have a hosted version, a managed hosting option that you can install on WordPress.com. And it's just like this, like you get different features, you can't do any customization. It is limited, but it's also maintained. So there's that trade-off.
Totally. Yes. I mean, you can even see here that on their pricing page, they use plugin instead of module. So, I mean, it's clearly kind of catering to that audience who's maybe more familiar with that setup. But I mean, for example, on the on the silver plan, if you want to get search by metadata, like it's not available on the plus plan. And basically, what that is if you go to one of these pages, you can click on any of the subject items, and then see all the other items that have that subject. So I'm trying to think of something that they probably all have the same subject. But this is like a very nice feature, like the module that enables this. But you don't have to pay a separate plan for this. All you have to do is just like type the plugin name in an environment document, and you get it after you figure out how to adjust some things in your admin module, your admin interface. So, and again, like it doesn't appear that it offers any of. I don't think it would be possible to do anything with the Internet Archive with the hosted version.
But you would then use like something like Amazon S3. There's all these other storage options. I mean, I don't know what is actually. That's a good question. Like, what is the default storage when you are using Omeka S?
You can store things directly on Omeka S. I mean, on the hosted plans, you have limits. It's these 2 gigabytes, 5 gigabytes, 10 gigabytes. Like it has a Maria database that it uses, at least the self-hosted version. I imagine the hosted versions are the same. So you can store data there, but you won't. It would be very difficult to store archival quality data, and this is what being able to point to the Internet Archive gives you. But yes, you could use a whole variety of different storage solutions for storing information in a way that pool. I think they might even integrate with. I can't remember the name of it. There is another. There's. It doesn't look like they do, but there is like a very I think it's Archive Space, which is a piece of software that does storage. Archive Spaces. No, it's information management application.
So this is the hosted version of this allows people to get involved and start using Omeka S without having all of this technical know-how, without having to install their own servers or set up Docker on their own computer. If you want to get in, if you want to start using Omeka S and see how it works for your community archive, then you have this hosted option. Of course, what we're going to be recommending and what we're going to be doing in the next workshop is that communities install their own and set up their own with everything that we're going to be talking about in the ZKAV Club workshops this year. It's all about how communities can document themselves, but also like own the documentation. How can we get away from using YouTube to host our community documentation, because like there's obvious privacy leaks. If you want to share your community stories, you have to give it all to Google. I don't really like that. So in this case, Omeka is a better solution. Of course, it's archived versus YouTube's a totally different thing. And this brings us to another question here, and then I think we're gonna wrap it up because like I'm excited to get into the hands-on stuff after what you've shown us here, C-Host. So the last question is, will this tool be used to manage the content for the entire ZKAV Club soon? The short answer is no. This is it's a broad question. Like all of the content for the entire ZKAV Club That's not really like I don't even know what that is. So the what we're going to be using Omeka S for is for the free and open source media archive that we're building with the recording station. In case you don't know, the recording station is this video studio that we're taking, audiovisual studio that we're taking to different events, decentralized and open source technology events primarily for now. And we allow anyone to come and record. When they record with us, they own the content. We ask them for an open source or Creative Commons license on it. So the actual source material that's captured on the cameras and on the audio board with each of the microphones, all of that raw material is what we're actually making public. That's what we're going to be using the Internet Archive for. That's what we're going to be using Omeka S for. We have like 50 different recordings that fit the criteria to go into our archive at the beginning. And we're going to be making a lot more, including ZCon. We'll be doing that. So this is for a very specific project within ZKAV Club. We have a bunch of different things happening, like the workshops program. Our workshops won't be working with Omeka S or with the Internet Archive as far as we have planned right now. The workshops are for learning. It's for us to interact and to figure out how to use these tools that we're building ZKAV Club with. So that's the answer. I think like, do you have anything else that you want to cover in this workshop, C-Host, or can we should we wrap it up and tease people to what's coming up in a couple weeks?
No, yeah, I think this is good. I mean, one thing I'll say is I think maybe it was posted in the chat, but I did prepare a tutorial. If you are feeling brave enough to try this whole setup yourself, you can follow it, and you should get something that looks like this on the other side. I also recommend what Ryan said. If you just want to kind of get your feet wet, like do go just try Omeka for free. And yeah, so the goal between now and the next session in 2 weeks is find better Wi-Fi. But no, more seriously, is to set up a kind of deployed instance of Omeka S, specifically for the purposes that Ryan had just mentioned. And with any luck, Ryan and I will be able to get to work on that together, getting that set up. And then in the next workshop, we'll have brought in some data. We'll bring in some data that's maybe a little messy, and we can open it up to some guests who can come and actually get some like basically do the stuff that I was doing, which is only possible because it's on a local host at the moment. But basically let you get in and see what it feels like to find an item, see some metadata you want to change, propose a revision, maybe go in to the admin interface, look at the review process, and then give us some feedback on what feels good, what doesn't feel good, what kind of changes you'd like to see, how it feels as a community process, and maybe kind of document some of those things in a way that helps us to kind of build, or helps CKAV to build a kind of some policy documents for how this gets governed. Because this really just opens the capabilities for community self-governance, but it doesn't necessarily say how it gets governed. And so I'm quite curious to see through some practical hands-on experience with a live website, A, if there are any bugs, and B, what kinds of patterns start to emerge.
Yeah, the how of the governance of it.
And
This
maybe,
is an interesting topic. Go on.
yeah, and maybe also just, you know, it could be a great chance to kind of find a way of contributing to ZKAV if you're passionate about archiving and you really like information and metadata, and then you should come along to the workshop and get logged in as a guest and, you know, see
Heck yeah.
what archival work feels like, hands-on.
Yeah, totally. I think that this is going to get some of our metadata nerds out there and some of the archivists really excited. That's the idea. I'm excited about this because we are actually going to be using it actively. We brought on Irena as an archivist to help out with this. So C-Host and I are going to be working together to get this instance up and going. We'll do another workshop. And then I think even like after that workshop, it might even make sense to do another workshop on like the human and the social aspect of this, like you were talking about, the how this archive gets governed and built, because that's really like what I want people to take away from this whole project, this archiving project and this self-hosted archive project is like you can build an archive for your own community that you actually control and that you can maintain and you can support and build as a community. I think it's really cool and really exciting stuff. So thank you, C-Host, for bringing the software to us and explaining it. And I'm really excited for hanging out with you and working on the instance and seeing where we can take this project.
Cool, and yes, thank you again for the opportunity to come and share it, and also the impetus to like get all this set up and document it so that not only people here but people elsewhere can also start to see if this is something that is suitable for their needs and their communities.
Yeah, that's the whole goal here. So the resources that you were talking about, they are in the description on the YouTube video. So if you're watching the workshop and you made it all the way to the end, browse down to the bottom of the description, make it all the way to the end of that one, and you can get to the presentation link with the slideshow, which was done with CryptPad. I appreciate that. Collaborative document link also. CryptPad, there's an instance repo with the example instance that C-Host was showing, and this tutorial that takes you all the way through from setting up your own local running Omeka S to filling in all of this metadata, importing and all of that. I actually have one more question. That the modules that you made, are those in the module in this like store or module, whatever it's called, the repo that you showed?
I haven't registered them yet. I only recently finished the modules, and as you can see, there are still a couple of rough edges here and there. But that is something that I would like to do. I did look into it recently, and it's actually not very complicated. I just need to test a couple more things before I feel comfortable putting them up there. But that would also make the Docker setup much easier as well.
Cool.
So coming.
Awesome. Thank you again, C-Host. Thank you, Ora and Roosevelt, for helping to organize this. Thank you to Robmar, the man behind the cameras, or in this case, the live streams, getting that off to YouTube. And thank you, everyone, for watching, for joining. And I hope that you join us for the next Omeka S workshop. If you're going to DWebCamp, come find us. And yeah, otherwise, we'll catch you at the next workshop in a couple of weeks. We also have later this month a special Zebra node workshop for all you Zcash fans. So thanks again. C-Host, thank you again. Thank you, team. Thanks, ZKAV Club. Bye.